Okay, so thanks everybody for joining us tonight. I'm Colin Crowley, and with Rebel Coaching, we're continuing our Wednesday night webinars. And tonight I'm very happy to be joined by Barry Corkery. And what we'll be talking about is I suppose Barry had a tweet up. Excuse me, Barry had a tweet up there in the past fortnight, I suppose, just as this whole thing was kicking off, as regards the COVID-19 and the lockdowns and stuff like that. So what we'll be doing is we'll be just going through a number of tips that he gave. So Barry's background is fairly broad, and I suppose, Barry, you might go through that yourself. You might just give an input on what your background, as I suppose, from a GA perspective, but also from a professional perspective, because that's probably the most important part of tonight.
Yeah, look, I work with the HC with addiction services. I head up addiction services. I'm a senior manager in Kerry. So I have a daily commute down to Tralee, where I've got a phenomenal team below there. We've got a couple of treatment centres for those that are on for day patients. So that's the day job. I work with mental health services as well, and I've been with them for the last 6-7 years. So I suppose I have a special interest in what's called dual diagnosis for service users that present with say a substance dependency issue and coexisting mental health presentation as well. So I suppose that's something I have a regular interest in myself in. So that's that. I have a bit of a private clinic on Ovens, all GP referrals, and keeps me tipping away a few evenings. And in the spare time, then we do a small bit of sport. So I'm lucky enough to be involved in a couple of teams, and it's great to kind of contribute my own small bit as well. Yeah.
And teams you're involved with, just to, I know actively at the moment you're involved with a couple of the Cork squads in various guises.
Yeah, look, I was involved with Bobby and the minors in 2018, 2019. Obviously good season 2019. And it's amazing how small things turn seasons, and I suppose everyone contributes their own small bit. And I suppose it's a number of small pieces that I kind of put together. And each one a bit of luck as well on the way, and maybe make your look also. But I'm been with the Cork Ladies Footballers last year and again this year, and I head out the senior bogey girls as well this year. So it's look, it's nice opportunities. I just give my small piece and I'm gone again, but it's nice, you know. So great opportunity, and nice to work with, you know, elite athletes as well. Yeah, I'm very humble, very honoured.
And you've done lots of club stuff as well before. People think this is too completely elite stuff. You've been highly active as a player, coach, coordinator of camps and stuff like that.
Yeah, look, first and foremost, I'm a club guy, Nero guy, and look, I've been involved with some of the underage teams that have done well here locally, particularly hurling, I suppose. And obviously I've been involved in cool camps for, I did 15 years of cool camps, so this was what I get to know you well. And obviously, you know, I suppose, look, you, like all of us, we get love again from home and family, and I suppose our house is no different to others. We grew up in a J house, and if you didn't play J, you didn't get fed. So we played loads of J and we got fed, you know. I don't know. But,
imagine. I can imagine.
So look, I suppose, look, I am into J in a big way, obviously. Look, but you know, whatever sport it is, and I suppose my own kids play every sport that's going. And I'm a big fan of that, obviously.
Very good. So look, we'll go straight into it. I think you've controlled there, Bar, so you should be able to move the screen along if you just want to test that there. PowerPoint. Yeah, 1 second there now. I'll just get it up for you again. Okay, do you want to go again?
That's okay.
Okay, so
you can work with it. I can tell the bones on anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So I suppose you 12 points. You 12 points on the on the tweet, and we're going to go from 1 to 12. And I suppose there are, I suppose, a lot of them interlink in different ways. I suppose, but that's just, I suppose, it's the way the GA is. I suppose your life is that things are entwined. But the first one you put down, very simple. Write down your individual goals, sporting and otherwise. So you've got a small bit there to talk about.
Yeah, look, I mean, I suppose if it's sport, just kind of, put stuff onto paper. Okay, I suppose I'm a big believer of getting our thoughts out of our head and onto paper. So when it comes to kind of sports goals and life goals and whatnot, I suppose it's about kind of, what do I want? What are my goals? And I guess it's not real unless it's on paper, I suppose, as far as I'm concerned. But what's particularly important here is the process and how am I going to do it. So I find SMART is a fairly simple way of kind of achieving that and keeping focus on your goals. So yeah, that piece, you don't climb a mountain by simply looking at the top. So with your goals, they're specific. So you know what you want. They're measurable, so you can track it along the way. Achievable, obviously, they've got to be realistic, of course. Um, Relevant, obviously, to what I'm interested in. So, and I suppose there's a time focused all these things. We can't go on and on forever. So, I just think, as I said, it's not real unless you put it on paper. Not real unless you put it down, and then you can tick it off. And you find a lot of kind of, sports players, be they elite or be they club, write down a lot of stuff. And it's intriguing as you can progress over time and you reflect how well you're getting on. I suppose I make the point not to compare ourselves to others, because typically, we get caught up in maybe expectations that might frustrate us. And I guess moreover kind of being judgmental of ourselves when maybe we mightn't be as good as the next person. So I suppose I guess we get into kind of thoughts of, well, maybe I'm not good enough and he or she is better than me. So just keep it kind of real, kind of comparing apples with apples, and I guess you can measure it over time. So I suppose my comment there was about physical fitness, I think, and that you can measure that across the timeline. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. And like I know elite athletes they'd be very much focused on this sports psychology thing to have SMART goals and stuff like that. But for the normal athlete, let's say the junior, the intermediate, or the club player, and I suppose for younger players as well. So if we've parents in here tonight, that if you've got a 14, 15, 16-year-old who has ambition of either being a Cork minor or even making the school team or making the first team in the club, like this is something that's applicable to them as well in various capacity. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. Look, I mean, again, for me, it's I suppose it's the way we live our lives. It's not about only playing sports, and being kind of stuck in that kind of a fixed mindset. It's the way we live our lives. It's school, it's home, it's family, it's people we interact with. It's a living, breathing way of being. It's not a state of doing, if you wish. So absolutely, this is applicable right through from your club person, maybe a young person who's breaking through development squads and whatnot. But I think again, it's just important that we're comparing like with like all the time, and I guess that's why I find it's great that we put it down, and then it becomes a kind of a live document when it's on paper, and it's phenomenal to be able to kind of reflect back on a kind of a diary and kind of go, Jesus, that's where I was in February, and look now in March, and I'm able to kind of sprint faster, or I can lift more, or maybe I'm more reflective of myself, and that's improved me, improved my game, and improved my personality and who I am,
Very good. Next one, number 2, reduce your screen time, social media use, Twitter, Instagram, etc. So I know we're completely contradicting ourselves here now by having a webinar where we're looking at each other through computer and discussing these things. But I suppose, what's the extreme? What's the extreme? What are you trying to get people, or what are you recommending they're getting back from?
Yeah, I guess. Look, look, you're banging our Colin. Obviously, we wouldn't be having this conversation only for kind of maybe a tweet in the first place, So, I suppose there's a place and a platform for social media and all of that. I guess what I'm on about more is kind of that there needs to be just balance. That's all. So that we don't become obsessed. I suppose there is just so much information coming at us in the world that we live in. There's so many kind of pop-ups and whatnot on our phones all of the time, and it just can be very hard to switch off from that, So I guess that contributes to kind of people being a bit more stretched and maybe a bit more stressed. So I suppose I'm saying, look, like myself and maybe like yourself, we might read articles and whatnot on Twitter or on kind of social media, other social media platforms, and that's fine. But it's just when it maybe gets a bit too much. Maybe when you find your pop up once a week is saying, you know, you're on the phone so many hours. You're kind of going, wow, Jesus, how am I on the phone so many hours in a particular day? Just things like that, you know. So look, I'm saying, look, you know, even around bedtime and kind of sleep hygiene, I'm saying, like, there's a place for the phone, and you know, you put the phone away, and you know, you don't kind of, you know, you hear often kind of people that come to me that you're kind of into bed and they're checking the phone, and geez, next thing it's 45 minutes later, like, and they're trying to get to sleep, and it's very difficult to switch off the prefrontal cortex when they're sitting in the bed, and the lights are out and the head is still active, obviously, you know, from what we've been looking at. So again, it's just very, very simple stuff. I guess it's kind of just a simple discipline we're looking at here.
And I like it. I suppose, like, when you're on about bedtime there, that, like, the excuse that I'd use and I have used, I suppose, would be try and need the phone beside me for the alarm clock. But it's turn it off at a time, that whether you go into bed or whether before you go into the room, that's it. Is that what you're saying?
I guess, again, yeah, it's just a form and practice that we do discipline ourselves. You know, again, no different to kind of when we're on the pitch and we're training and we're being told, look, I want you to run to the cone. It's always the same people that are kind of cutting the cones and cutting the corners. You know, so I suppose this is again, is another discipline. So I'm saying, look, you know, you wake up in the middle of the night, you know, a typical kind of reaction from some people can be kind of, you know, what time is it, checking the phone, and I'm kind of saying, look, it doesn't really matter whether it's 2 a.m. or 10 to 6, you know, just leave it where it is and just roll over. And I suppose if you've the alarm set, it'll wake us anyway, you know. So just simple. These are only small little simple tips, and they make kind of, you know, I suppose you put all these pieces together to make a difference, you know.
Yeah, very good. So number 3 was pay attention to the present moment. So what you gave an example: when you're eating, just eat; when you're walking, just walk. Basically, try to cut out multitasking. Our minds are like untrained puppies. You've got to teach them. When your mind takes off to something else, just gently bring it back to whatever you were doing. And I suppose that interlinks with the phone, as I said, like a classic example of when you're having the dinner or having a lunch on your own, the phone will be in one hand and you'll be eating a roll out of the other hand. So I suppose that would interlink there, I suppose, wouldn't it?
It really would, I guess. I suppose, look, yeah, that piece about our minds being like untrained puppies. I mean, it's kind of a fairly simple analogy, but you know, typically, you know, you get a new puppy and the little feckers running all over the place, and you have to kind of train them to kind of to toilet train them and heal and all this kind of carry on. And I suppose our minds are a bit like that as well, where our minds kind of can be racing a lot, especially when we're maybe when we're a bit more vulnerable, or maybe when we're taking on too much, or maybe when we're looking at social media too often or whatnot. So I guess it's trying to just kind of slow down our mind, and through the form and practice be able to kind of take hold of your mind, if you wish, so to speak. So when your mind takes off, it's like you pull it back again, and off it goes again. You pull it back again, and ultimately it's that piece where you're actually, you catch yourself thinking or being away from what you're doing. That's the moment when we're being mindful, when we catch ourselves in the moment. So I suppose, look, we can do it through observing, through our senses, you know, what we smell, what we see, all that. A bit like your comment, it's often I've sat in front of the TV eating away, and next thing the grub is gone, and I don't know what I ate. I didn't even taste it, you know. So yeah, that piece about paying attention to the present moment. And look, I'm a fan of this John Kabat-Zinn guy. You know, he says 1,000 times my mind will take off, and 1,000 times I'll bring it back again. And again, it's only over time that we get better and better and better at being able to kind of train that puppy, if you wish, or train our mind.
Very good. Number 4, you had take time to read something you enjoy. So again, I devil's advocate here. I enjoy reading through Twitter. And it's kind of contradicting again or it's not contradicting. It's realigning what you said earlier on about less screen time. What do you mean by taking time to read something you enjoy?
I suppose, look, I'm just suggesting that there's it's a really good form of practice, maybe, to kind of get lost in a book. And I suppose you choose something that you're into. For me, I'm kind of into kind of sports autobiographies and things like that. I even for myself, I found Paul O'Connor's book just a game changer for me, kind of really getting into a player's mindset and how sports psychology for him kind of just changed how he played as a player and how he improved his performance, you know. I guess, even, reading that there's something about kind of, almost detaching from the world we're in and just having ring fence time to sit down and just read a book, whatever it may be, whether it's a novel or whatever it is. It's just important. I guess I really love that picture that's on the screen about, being mindful. So when our heads are absolutely full, okay, or being mindful in the moment. And in that picture, you'll be posting there, like you've got a guy walking in a park, like let's say in Fisher's Park, and you've got a beautiful park, beautiful scenery, a lovely day, and this chap is lost in what's going on inside his head, and he's thinking about bills and bothers and stressors and whatnot, and he's walking his dog, and all the dog sees is bunny rabbits and trees and exactly what's in front of him. So I guess, maybe there's something on here about being dogs, but yeah, it's about being able to kind of slow down the mind and just be in the present moment, I guess.
Yeah, very good. And the next one then you had was about taking time to engage in formal mindful practice, breathing, grounding, playing with Lego, colouring, doodling, yoga, etc. Like I know I had a podcast there with John Cummins recently who'd be very much into mindfulness and breathing and being conscious of yourself in the moment. But like I said, the one that sticks out to me there, playing with Lego. How would for someone who knows nothing about mindfulness, how would that be mindful?
I guess even I look at something I kind of particularly see my own kids, kind of I see them kind of as they're kind of grown up, and when they're playing with Lego, they're absolutely consumed and lost in the moment and very much present in that moment playing. And even when you call them, like kind of you nearly have to kind of almost surgically remove them from it, like, but it's beautiful to watch them when they're kind of just absolutely lost in the moment. And I guess in the world we live in, we live in a world where we're almost we almost kind of have to conform to society norms and kind of be going all the time. So I suppose I read a piece about Jacob Stockwell and being away in Irish camp and playing with Lego, and I was like, yeah, geez, that's brilliant, and I guess it's whatever you're doing, you're just doing that, I suppose it's a bit like learning to drive a car, once upon a time we couldn't drive the car at all, then you sat inside and you learned all about kind of gear 6 and 10 to 2 holding the steering wheel and accelerator, brake, clutch, all that kind of carry on. But when you learn to drive the car, then you had the radio off and the windows closed and whatnot. And as you kind of got better at driving and as you became more kind of consciously competent and you got a bit cocky, maybe you might have one hand on the steering wheel and the window rolled down and the music blaring because you became much better at it, But again, it's that the champion that formal practice over and over again until we become really, really good at it. And obviously, you're right when you're driving the car with one hand down and music blaring, but I suppose it's more a way of being. As I keep saying, it's not a doing. It's very much kind of just the way we live our lives, But that mastery coming from repetition and doing something over and over and over and over again. And you take even sports teams, like, and you're trying to kind of, even in training sessions, simulate what happens in real game situations, and just even a little examples where I've seen teams simulate a goalkeeper's kick out, and where teams really push on in a full press and everyone's screaming at the goalie, and it creates almost like a real kind of hostile kind of moment in the game. But it's being able to kind of manage that kind of a scenario. It kind of really governs how you can do it in real time in a championship kind of game. So it's I guess it's the way we live our lives in one way off the field translates to how we kind of manage ourselves on the field.
Yeah, and like it was one thing that John would have spoke about from the mindfulness side of things was like that he, like I suppose like in golf now they'd be very much conscious of it and they'd use mindfulness a lot, but they've got time that once you hit a shot, you've probably got 2 or 3 minutes before you get to the next shot and you decide what you're doing. You've got time within yourself to bring yourself, to anchor yourself back to normality, let's say. But even from a team sport like hurling and football, like there's breaks in the game where there's a free up the other end of the pitch. It doesn't affect you. That there is time for you to do, I suppose,
there typically is, yeah, like you find in any kind of 60-minute game, but typically the ball isn't played for kind of like circa 35 minutes or so. So I guess there's silent balls and there's puck outs and there's players injured and whatnot, where one can regulate their baseline, and we'll get to that maybe a bit more in a minute, but you can kind of maybe just check in with yourself. Where am I at? We're all emotional beings anyway, by nature. So it's about being able to kind of maybe cool the jets under pressure and reset and go for the next play again. And I guess being able to do that over and over again is something we have to try that, we have to practice that. And again, I suppose the mastery coming from repetition, from doing it off the field, doing it on the field in training, and then bringing it to club games and whatnot,
Yeah, and like the last thing that just resonates with me now that John would have said would be, he would have given an example of when the red mist descended, when a fella gets sent off, and we'd all know fellas in our own clubs that might be susceptible that if they get a slap or they get a late tackle.
I was one of those soldiers in the later days, right?
Yeah,
I started getting caught.
But once they get a slap or get a hit or get a late tackle or something, you just know that they're not themselves. You can just see that the next thing you're kind of going, don't get sent off, don't do anything stupid. And then it's for those type of people, they could really benefit from being mindful and using mindful practice for their on-field.
Completely, absolutely. Again, that baseline regulation, that self-reflection, being able to kind of catch that moment and cool the jets and reset and go again and be ready for the next play. Very often, again, as emotional beings, we kind of get lost in the last moment. We get a great score, a great block down. We miss a play. Our man gets a goal or whatnot. And we're so consumed with the last play that we're not in this moment, and invariably we can make mistakes again in this moment because we're not where we need to be. So I suppose that piece about being able to kind of regulate, reset, go again, but maybe that piece in between of doing something formal that will do it. So whether it's kind of just focusing on kind of the kind of a hoarding on the side of the field, or whether it's tying your shoelace, or where maybe it's taking a deep breath, or the All Blacks do this one where the captain kind of bangs his foot in the ground kind of thing. Whatever it may be, English rugby team there under Clive Woodward had an acronym TCUP, thinking clearly under pressure. So that would be the call that would go around the pitch for guys just to cool the jets and let's go again, and get the top 6 inches right. Yeah.
Very good. Next one there, get out and enjoy the fresh air, be it the countryside, beach, woods. Now I know that most people, because of the 2 km limit, don't get that benefits, but still getting out for a bit of fresh air during the day is important. And as I said, I see it like you've got up there, no such thing as bad weather or inappropriate clothing, and I love that comment as well, because it's an easy cop out to say that it's a bit cold outside or it's a bit wet outside.
It is. I mean, it's easier kind of, on maybe days like today to maybe get out and to go for a run, or even go for a lovely walk, or whatever the case may be, when it's sunny and shiny and all that. I guess, unfortunately, championship games are also played in bad weather, so we got to get used to that kind of stuff as well. I don't know if I've ever kind of come across a player or a person who came home after kind of a workout, and are out in the cold or whatnot, or out in the wet, and they felt worse after it. It's quite interesting. But I suppose we can jump into the shower and change our clothes and go again. Again, it's just a discipline piece, and it's a mindset piece. I guess, even with that COVID piece, like you referenced, I guess our obviously our geography and where we live governs our response. But whether it's in the suburbs, whether it's in the city, or whether it's out in the country, you get out, you're within your own kind of 2K radius, and off you go and do your thing, But it's the getting up and going is the challenge, Yeah.
And I suppose on that, like that, your same things you're saying about being present when you're doing it. Actually, leave the phone in the pocket, or leave the phone at home when you're going out and actually see the area, see the things that you mightn't normally notice. So now, as much as ever, is as good a time to be doing things like that.
Yeah, completely. And even again, it's actually a bit like the reading comment. I suppose there's a place for reading a book, and there's a place for going for the jog, and there's a place for going for a real kind of hard run. Like, so just staying with your point there, like, I guess if your head is a mess and you're home from work, or you're there in the middle of the day and you're stretched and whatnot, I guess it's being able to engage in something really kind of formal. If you're really stressed, to engage in really kind of a really tough workout, even for a short period. So, like in the tweet I was saying about 20 hard press-ups really, really fast. Some fellas can do far more than 20 press-ups. I'd be kind of struggling in that piece. But like, even if it's going for a run, as opposed to going for a jog, like absolutely just go for it, like, you know, and burn up, like expend all that negative, that energy, just burn it up. And yeah, we typically feel better when we come back, and our baseline, it seems to have kind of come back down again, and it's regulated, and we're in much kind of better form again. So yeah.
Very good. Next one then you had was ensure you keep structure in your day, housebound or not. So this is crucial. Have this planned. 8 a.m. to noon, noon to 4 p.m., 4 p.m. to 8, 8 to 12. For each 4-hour block, what will you do? Don't wake up and wonder, what will I do today? Have a plan and stick to it. And I suppose ever more so now with so many people working from home, and their normal routine of 9 to 5 working and traveling to work and coming back from work, and then maybe go to training in the evening. Now is probably a time more than ever than when they need to actually have a think about what they're actually doing with the routine.
Yeah, it really is. It's a big challenge, because I suppose, look, typically, you know, obviously, look, I'm on the road daily myself, but so things haven't changed a whole lot there. But you know, I guess we're all creatures of habit, and I suppose what I'm just trying to kind of champion is kind of, you know, don't wake up in the morning and kind of go, what am I going to do today? Or don't kind of find yourself at 4 o'clock in the middle of the day and kind of go, geez, what am I going to do now? I suppose what I'm suggesting is, you know, before you go to bed, you know, tonight, have your plan for tomorrow. What am I going to do? I suppose I'd be saying, even down to the clothes you're going to wear tomorrow, have them picked out and good to go, like, you know, and there's no kind of faff in the morning, and there's no kind of getting anxious about what I'm going to look like or what I'm going to tug off and all that kind of stuff. It's all done, decisions made, and have your structure. So, like, whatever block you're in there, that, you know, maybe 12 to 4 p.m. block, that you've got your structure, you know what you're going to do. And that maybe that whether it's get out and go for a walk, or whether it's kind of ringing around and family and friends, or whether it's meeting neighbours and doing your social distancing and having your conversation, just have your plan made out. Again, whether it's heading down to the Lindenball colleague, you know, and doing a bit of shopping, or like whatever it is, like have your structure and stick, I suppose, to it. Again, like I said, look, just don't kind of find yourself kind of going, I wonder what I'm going to do now. And yeah, if you're the person that is now working from home, you know, and you get up in the morning at 6 o'clock, I'd suggest, yeah, keep that routine going. If it works for you, it works for you. And if you go for a run in the evening or whatnot, you stick to your structure. You know.
Very good. And next one there, you had listen to your body, particularly around cabin fever from being cooped up, or maybe feeling anxious around COVID-19. So regulate your baseline formally by getting out in the fresh air, engaging in intense exercise, even for a short period, 20 fast press-ups, cold water on the face and wrists where the pulse is, and of course, don't forget to breathe.
Yeah. Look, I guess, look, my own kind of training is in, as a kind of behavioural therapist, is in cognitive and dialectical behavioural therapy. So I suppose we'll use these quite a lot, these kind of cross-sectional formulations, and you're looking at situations, and I guess like our thoughts can govern our feelings, our emotions, and they can, you know, I suppose contribute towards how we behave and what we do. And I suppose on top of that, then what happens within our body's sensations or our physiology. So typically you'll find that one will kind of ricochet off the other. So if it was like a negative headspace one was in, if you were thinking negatively, you might feel negative. You might feel sad or anxious, whatever the case may be. You might know that in your own behavior, or others might pick it up in our behavior. And in our body, we might feel kind of some pent up tension, or kind of maybe our stomach is in knots, or it's kind of our tummy's rolling, that kind of way. So, so I suppose one kind of bounces off the other, as I was saying. We might just bounce to the next slide, rolling with that, maybe to expand on it. So, I've actually up the top here, reduce what makes you vulnerable. Just on the left hand side there, you'll see I use this kind of baseline quite a lot. It's a very simple kind of a tool. 0 kind of being like an incredibly positive space, and 10 being like quite a negative headspace. Up at 10 where our minds are absolutely full, where we might get some kind of negative intrusive thoughts, and we can't let go. We've kind of attached to those thoughts. At the bottom, 0 being like 0 being like the most ultimate kind of positive moment of our lives. where we're very mindful, kind of absolutely in the moment, and we're very clear about facts and all of that. Typically, I find most people kind of live in and around kind of 3, 4, 5 baselines, but as they get stretched and stressed, that baseline may climb and climb and climb. So if you're looking back at the thoughts, feelings, behaviors, physiology, you can see how kind of one bounces off the other, and as we're feeling more negative, you know, it does impact on our baseline as it climbs and climbs, as I was saying. So I guess what I'm encouraging people to do is and it's not just again, it's a living, breathing way of being. Like, it's for all the time, and it's off the field, it's on the field. You know, that we engage in formal self-care practice that kind of cools the jets and regulates us and brings us down. And like, this starts from the time we wake up in the morning. You don't kind of decide, oh Jesus, 1 o'clock in the day, I got to do something here. This is all of the time. It's like the way we drive our car. It's the way we put the key in the door to open it in the evening when we come home. But that we do something deliberate to kind of regulate our baseline when we're stretched. So that may be putting cold water on our face. It may be going for like a deliberate run. It's just engaging in something that will burn up that energy. Again, conversely, you know, when we're feeling good, we're getting very good kind of positive thoughts. Typically, we might feel kind of really well, and behaviorally, we communicate that to the world and communicate it to ourselves how well and what kind of headspace we're in. And in our physiology, again, in our body, we feel really comfortable, really relaxed, because our body's relaxed. We're thinking kind of much more positively again, and it manifests into kind of a much more positive kind of headspace. So I guess, look, much of this is kind of within our gift, and obviously many things you know, we can't control, but it's what's within our gift, I suppose, is what I'm trying to impress upon people.
Yeah, very good. So this slide, is that part of the last one or the next one? So negative thoughts. If you're having number 9, if you're having negative, intrusive thoughts, write your thoughts out on paper.
Yeah, I suppose, look, a bit like the start, I was saying, like, it doesn't become real unless it's on paper. So, like, I encourage people to kind of, you know, empty the trash can, like if you can imagine, like, our heads being like a trash can, you're kind of tipping it up, and you're knocking all those thoughts out on the paper, and if you write them all down, and once throw it on the table, so to speak, if you were going through them one by one and kind of looking at each one of them, kind of going, well, that's a thought, and that's a thought, and okay, that's a fact, we got to deal with that one. But it's being able to kind of decipher what is a thought and what is a fact, and what really impacts us. So I find practicing like that formally makes an awful difference, to be able to challenge kind of our intrusive thoughts. If you can imagine us being like an archaeologist, kind of like digging and looking for evidence. So, like, you know, when we go through the evidence, you may well find, you know, some of the stuff doesn't stack up at all. There's no evidence to support that intrusive thought. You know, whereas if it's a fact, well, you got to deal with the facts, you know.
Okay, very good. A second now. Number 10 then, vulnerability. Identify your vulnerability factors. What makes you vulnerable? Is it poor diet, poor sleep hygiene, screen time, family issues, relationships, etc.? Challenge what is within your gift control to address these factors. So, is that just being, let's say, is it similar to the last one? Is that identifying the thoughts and the negativities and getting rid of them? Or
it is, and I suppose especially kind of behaviors, like, you know, so you know, even go back to kind of the sleep and having the phone inside in the bed, and we looking at the phone kind of at 4 a.m. to check out what time it was, because it's very important at 4 o'clock in the morning to find out what time it is. You know, things like that are within our gift. We can change that behavior, you know, tonight we can do that. Things like poor diet and whatnot, that's very much controllable. You know, things like kind of substance use and whatnot, you know, I suppose I would encourage, look, drinking and all that, and there's obviously a place for it, and it's great and whatnot, but, like, I suppose I would encourage people when they're in a kind of a negative headspace, or when things aren't going great, that typically alcohol and whatnot isn't great, because it's I suppose alcohol by its nature is a depressant, obviously. So it certainly doesn't help us when we're in bad form. So yeah, I am saying, look, no exercise, maybe not enough exercise. Again, that's within our gift to change right now. So I'm saying, look, let's take off kind of bite sizes. Back to your SMART goals again. Let's make it achievable, and kind of bit by bit we can eat into it. So I suppose that's where kind of things like kind of coach 5Ks kind of go from. You start from a simple kind of a baseline, and you take bite size off it, and I suppose you reduce what makes you vulnerable, because it's and again, look, not everything is within our gift, obviously, but in as much as we possibly can, do what's possible. We have a big mirror in our building where we work, and look, I suppose I'm into the alcohol dependency and that kind of stuff, but we have one mirror that says, you're looking at the face of the person responsible for your recovery. And it's intriguing, like, I suppose when you do look in the mirror, I suppose that's the only person that will ultimately change it for you. The next person might want you to do well, but it's ultimately for us to kind of stack the odds in our favour and do all the right things,
Yeah, very good. Next one you had was formally reward yourself. Celebrate the little wins effectively. What do you mean by celebrate them effectively?
I suppose
is that just as regards like something small gets a small reward and something big gets a bigger reward, or is that
no, not at all. I suppose when I say effectively, it's kind of different in the sense that we choose our rewards wisely, right?
Yeah.
So we might do very well, and we might decide, look, geez, I'll go on to last year because I deserve a reward, or I might buy a cake and have it all to myself, kind of thing. So I suppose effectiveness in that sense.
Okay.
Kind of focusing on what works as opposed to what doesn't work. So I suppose that's the sense in which I mean effective, because that's quite important, obviously. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there a second.
No, Grant, just about rewarding yourself.
I was just flicking back, actually. If we can go back maybe 2 slides. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Like typically, I find there you see in the right where I find if you look at a very simple piece here again, where we go from a scale of kind of -10 to +10, where on the -10 where we've got that very kind of inner critic, kind of strong, kind of the voice reminding kids out to ourselves, and on the other side then you've got the guy who's telling us, geez, you're an absolute legend, you're incredible, you're better than everyone else. So I suppose in by nature, human beings typically are more many people are quite hard on themselves, and I suppose that's been my experience in my own work anyway. So I suppose what I'm encouraging people to do is that when we get it wrong, as invariably we will in life, because in life, as in love, as in sport, we will lose more than we will win. I suppose I'm saying, look, we don't cut the arse out of ourselves, typically we can. What I'm saying is that let's catch ourselves, what didn't go so wrong, and let's not be that hard on ourselves. I suppose on the flip side, when we get it right, and I suppose back to the effectiveness piece, we don't want to overly praise ourselves. It's a balanced piece. So I'm saying, look, on the one side, if we're going to be balanced in how we praise ourselves, when we get it wrong, let's not overly kind of give out to ourselves and be hard on ourselves. That's what I mean.
How do people identify that themselves, then, Barry? How will you identify whether you're being too tough for yourself or to overpraise or inner critic? How do you is it possible for a person themselves to identify it, or what kind of methods would you use or advise for that?
I guess I suppose, look, it's kind of with the stop tour here, but I suppose even tapping into that kind of emotional baseline place. If you were being very hard on yourself, typically you wouldn't be saying you were down at a kind of a 2 or a 3. You'd be moreover kind of up at 6 and 7s and 8s. You'd be very, very hard on yourself, and almost like your head would be full. So back to that picture of the guy where the head is absolutely full of thoughts, and typically it's kind of negative, intrusive thoughts. So we'd be lashing ourselves and very, very hard on ourselves. And I look, that's kind of almost an ineffective place to be, but it's a human nature piece that can absolutely happen. Yeah,
So
I suppose what I'm asking and encouraging is that formal discipline that we get out, we burn up that, we expend all that energy through physical exercise or whatever the case may be, formal kind of breathing techniques or muscle relaxation techniques or whatnot, and we expend that energy, we burn it up, and we bring our baseline all the way back down again, and typically that kind of relaxes ourselves, and we're not so hard on ourselves,
But I suppose from the point of view of players now, let's say, I suppose younger players more so than older. And what I mean by younger is fellas that are at the peak of their game, or let's say in development squads and stuff. We find that there'd be a few of them would be very hard on themselves. Like I know just one case now in my own club. There's one player who could play an absolutely brilliant game, but he'd come off and go, "Oh, it was shocking," and you're kind of going, you weren't. And is there something he can do?
You can actually,
is it going back to writing it down and writing down the things?
Yeah, you took the words in my mouth. I mean, I think that if the champ is to write everything down, okay, and maybe get some feedback from maybe those he loves and those that you kind of know very well, those that you can trust, that will give you some constructive feedback. But moreover for ourselves, be able to kind of write the stuff down and maybe be able to kind of reflect and challenge the thoughts. And I guess a bit like that kind of comfortable kind of, like that researcher, that archaeologist, like where's the evidence to support kind of these negative intrusive thoughts? Why have I been so hard on myself? I think that's quite important. Well, I know that's actually the particular piece I loved about the Paul O'Connell book and the Caroline Curry comment, where she just found this incredible player was so bloody hard on himself. There was one piece where Richie McCaw gets Player of the Year, like a World Rugby Player of the Year or whatever, and Paul O'Connell was up for it as well, but he kind of maybe didn't believe he was good enough for it. And this is one of the greatest players of all time, so like this is not new news, obviously, but so I suppose that's why I'm a huge believer in that we try and develop that kind of and build that kind of confidence muscle, and that we can reward ourselves effectively and give ourselves kind of positive kind of comments and kind of big ourselves up and kind of well done ourselves and kind of that kind of tap in the back kind of stuff. Like, it's lovely to get commentary and feedback from others, but it's really the messages we give ourselves that's important. So being able to kind of acknowledge and formally recognize, something like that, I'm doing bloody well here. That is important,
Yeah, and I suppose we've got other players then would be the exact opposite end of the spectrum, would be overpraising or over.
Yeah, really, you could find that as well. Like,
Yeah.
I'm great friends with a guy in Ballincollig, Conor Cohen. His old man Tig was very good to me years and years ago. He said that he would say to me, Bar, if a man came into my office and called me a horse, I think he was mad, But if 10 people came into the office and called me a horse, I'd strongly consider ordering a saddle. And there's a lot of truth in that, So I suppose I suppose I believe that our friends will tell us the truth. Our best friends will really tell us the truth.
Yeah.
Because they want the best for us. And you surround yourself with people that are on a mission that want the best for you. Yeah.
Very good. Right. The last number 12 that you had on the thing was, I'd suggest you use this time effectively. How about each player check in with a different player daily? Formally reaching out to players you typically wouldn't communicate with is a great way to get outside the comfort zone and become comfortable and vulnerable with vulnerability. And like, I suppose now more so than ever, like, as I know myself as a player, like the highlight of the week was getting down to the pitch, meeting everybody, spending that kind of 2 hours, be it 20 minutes beforehand, 20 minutes in the showers afterwards, or in the dressing room, just having the crack and having the chats and having that social outlet. And now all of a sudden, for a lot of players, that's just gone. And like, as I said, you're saying about players to players, but like, I suppose we've got a lot of coaches on tonight. Like, what kind of steps would you recommend for coaches? Now, let's say me, involved with an adult hurling team, 30 players. Like, what kind of steps should I be doing to, let's say, keep them, I suppose, just mentally checked in on?
I suppose, look, the kind of expression that crisis equals danger plus opportunity, is I suppose was quite prevalent, quite true at the moment. Obviously, we're in a crisis time, okay? It's at the end of this time, but it's also a time of opportunity, I suppose, and we kind of learn a lot about ourselves. And obviously, it's important we all get through and stay safe and whatnot. But from the point of view of kind of building team bonds and whatnot, I've seen some club teams in Cork where they do like Skype sessions or Zoom sessions like this, and they're all inside in their own homes, and they're doing kind of their own kind of gym sessions, whatever it is, no weights involved, but it just keeps that kind of bond going, like, I guess, I've seen in some WhatsApp groups where I suppose there's different challenges put out. I love the stuff that's going on the social media platforms right across the country, and I suppose the J are incredible in taking a lead in this one, where I suppose you've got challenges for kids. I know in my own club, one of our own coaches, our guy is Cal McCarthy. He looks after under-9s, and he's sending stuff out to the kids all the time, what challenges to do. So it just keeps the focus, I suppose, look, I know at a kind of more in serious kind of side of things, where maybe it is, I suppose it's, and I've said in the tweet about connecting with players and whatnot, but look, it's important that maybe players take the time to get to know players they wouldn't know as well. Kind of that we're reaching out to everybody, and you're picking something new all the time, and it's an opportunity for kind of maybe younger players to get to know the older players that bit more. So it's just simple things like that. I suppose I'm a huge fan of this lady called Brené Brown. One of the books, she's got loads of them, but this Dare to Lead book is it talks out about kind of the notion of vulnerability, and that the closer we are to vulnerability, and that we get to know who we really are. And I suppose I'm a real kind of fan of that kind of stuff, It's you'll see in the next one on again, that kind of growth mindset, and even that one on the COVID piece, like it's like this is a real growth. You'll see kind of where I want to be, and you go from the fear zone to the learning zone. And again, it's stuff I know you'll be posting out, and this is available on social media platforms again, but it's a real kind of challenging time for people, so you kind of learn a lot about ourselves in this kind of moment. Can I keep the structure I typically would have in my day? Can I be disciplined? Can I use this opportunity? And I suppose maybe being grateful for kind of simple things. And I suppose it's really an opportunity to kind of bring things back to basics, whether it's kind of getting to know our neighbour that bit better, whether it's being able to kind of use the time to kind of improve our physical fitness or our skill set or whatnot. Learning a lot about our emotional baseline, and what do I need to do? What are the things that contribute towards me becoming vulnerable? There's a real challenge at the moment to live in the present moment. And again, people are, you learn an awful lot about yourself, in this time. So I suppose there's a real kind of growth mindset opportunity here. So again, whether it's with the club, or whether it's like an adult or juvenile team, this has been a great opportunity as well, in the face of what is a very challenging time, obviously.
Excellent. I think is it there?
There's a last comment there. I saw this last night on Twitter. I just thought this was beautiful, real fab. You gain strength and courage and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You're able to say to yourself, I lived through this, or I can take the next thing that comes along. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. So, Eleanor Roosevelt. I just thought that'll do,
Yeah, especially just in the current climate, it kind of that resonate with a lot of people, and that want it.
Yeah, I thought about that, but that really jumped out of me. I thought it was nice.
Yeah,
so
very good.
Obviously, it's for everybody to stay safe, look after kind of those that are kind of nearest and dearest, and kind of love the neighbour and all that kind of carry on,
Yeah, very good. Questions? Look, as I said, you've gone through so much, Barry. I'm not too sure if we'll have any questions, but look, lads, if anyone has any questions, you can fire them into the chat there. We give them a minute or two. As I said, really, really interesting stuff. I think, there's just topics there, just parts of this discussion. Well, I know we're coming from a GA perspective, will resonate with any person in any walk of life, and there's just parts that I'll be getting Emma to see herself to see now later on, just going through a few bits of this that just she might find useful herself, So I think, Barry, I don't think anyone has any questions for you.
We take that, but no, look, it's very much kind of a whistle stop tour, like I was saying, so we kind of maybe ate through an awful lot of stuff there that typically it's been sessions and sessions on, but look, it's look, I suppose my tweet a few weeks back, whatever, was just a kind of a stay safe kind of piece. I suppose I work daily in that field, and I suppose look, it's just really important to kind of look after kind of those we love the most and stay safe and whatnot. And look, hopefully we'll all be back on the pitches pretty soon, doing what we certainly love.
Yeah. especially with the evenings like they are today. Look, Barry, we'll leave it at that. I just want to say thanks very much for your time. It was actually really, really enjoyable. As I said, we could probably do another 50 chats on the various topics we went through. But look, as I said, you might, what I'll do is I'll share your Twitter handle on Twitter and stuff when I get this information shared up. And as I said, we'll have a podcast and the video recording as well. So thanks very much for your time, Barry.
Brilliant, Margaret.
Appreciate it.
Slot.
Thanks.